Welcome. This is Christine Saxon. I'm glad you chose this webinar, and you're going to walk away with more than 4 strategies actually to reboot your inner battery. First of all, before we really get started, I'm going to encourage you to do something that we're going to talk about and to capture what's called attention residue before we cross the threshold. So before we step forward from whatever you were just doing, just thinking about, into this space together, take a moment and write down any thoughts that might be floating around in your head. Neuro researchers, so neurologists, neuropsychologists, actually measure this. It's called attention residue, and it stays in our minds. So take a moment, grab a pen and paper, write down your attention residue, and push it to the side. It might be as simple as, oh, I need to take something out of the freezer, or remember to call that person back. All right, now that you've done that, hopefully you have a pen and paper or a tablet or whatever you want to use to paddle through this webinar. So let's move forward. I invite you, here's a beautiful view of Air Force Beach on Vancouver Island where I have the pleasure to live and work. Take a breath and let's begin. So as I mentioned, I'm Christine. If you know me, I'm glad to see you here. If you haven't met me, I'm also glad that you're here. I'm an executive leadership coach. I'm an author of Paddle Your Own Boat. It's a book I published. It's on Amazon. And I'm also founder of this paddle platform. I teach, I speak, I do networking. Lots of things I do to help people. I help people paddle. And I like to meet people where they are. So here's how I'm going to do that in this webinar with you. My goal for each of you, ultimately I'm a coach and I want to individualize. So each of you, my goal is that you'll take away at least one strategy that really fits for you. Okay, so I invite you to think about and really feel this. Anyone feel like this lately? I love this post-it note person. Overwhelmed, that just resonates. And of course, cats and dogs really capture things well for us. So I'm not surprised if you are feeling that way. We are in the age of rapid, unprecedented change and growth. And here's a little gingerbread person kind of model to help you think about this. So change, they happen externally to us usually. Something like new policies, new regulations, a restructuring. How about COVID? A promotion. It might be a positive thing, whatever it is, changes often happen externally, and we try to deal with the change. To reboot your inner battery, it can help to realize that shifts happen internally. So you might be feeling stuck. We're going to talk about some of these things in 4 different ways and give you strategies. Because our batteries get drained when there's too much change, and then our inner capacity to deal with this and make the necessary shifts can really feel compromised, or we can feel like we just can't, right? I can't even. So the reason for this is changes are out of our control a lot of the time. Shifts are within our control, and yet our brain and our energy focuses on the changes, folks. And they're out of our control. So if this is the one thing you walk away with, I hope that it helps you already. The changes, we feel like, oh, this is changing, that's changing, I need to adapt. Well, those things are going on around you, and often they're out of our control, but we push back against them. We try to figure them out. We, try to navigate our way through them in some ways by really focusing on the change, when what's within your control is your capacity to shift. Speaking of that, this is a common model that shows that we actually, as humans, in our thinking and our feeling and how we navigate as we paddle, we have 3 spheres of control, right? The blue one, some things are out of our control. The yellow one is what you can influence, right? You have some influence on it. And the red ones are what you can actually control. So if that full circle is everything going on, look at that small amount that's really within your ability and what you can control. So the concept here, as I just showed with the gingerbread person, is to shift your focus on what you can control or influence, which often is our inner thoughts, our inner feelings, our inner reactions, our inner world. And part of that, a real key part, is to shift your mindset or your behaviors about what is outside of your control. Why am I focusing so much on that thing over there that's happening, that's out of my control, when what I can control is, geez, the neighbors are always pounding and renovating and it's loud, and I'm focused on that and shifting outward and focusing outward on that, when really I could install some noise canceling blinds. I could close the window. I could work in a different room. Focus on what's within you. The reason all of this is complex comes back to the age-old iceberg model, that each of us, I like to think of each of us as, bobbing around in the ocean, bumping into each other, making sense of each other, when all we can see is each other's behaviors, right? So we can see each other's behaviors, can see ours. What we can't see, to use the metaphor of an iceberg, there's a lot more going on underneath there. There is a lot more under there. And we can't see it, yet it influences those behaviors, our own and other. So if you think about this, write these down for yourself if it feels right. What are some mindsets that you might have that get in the way of making healthy shifts when things change? What are some mindsets? Do you become rigid in your thinking? Does fear dominate? Do you go, oh my gosh, I can't take any more? Do you have closed, risk-averse, fearful mindsets? Do you have open, possibility-focused mindsets? Okay, so mindsets are powerful. And here's our wonderful idea. And here's the powerful part. Because mindsets are powerful, so are you. You can shift your mindsets. You can shift your behaviors. This is within your realm, within your control, within your management, within your sphere of influence. So I invite you right now, right? This is called Reboot Your Inner Battery. Pause and reflect and write some things down for yourself. What drains your battery? What makes your inner battery look like, oh, I need to plug it in, right? It's so low, I can't even. Pause and reflect on some specific things that drain your battery. Might be your own mindsets, might be your own behaviors, might be external things, other people's behaviors, lack of sleep, worrying. Write some things down for yourself. Okay, keep coming back if this feels helpful for you as we explore now. So that was background information about here's what's going on for us humans, right? Of course, we need to reboot our inner batteries. Life is complex. Changes are happening. Our brain automatically focuses on the changes more than our ability to shift, which is within our power. So let's now look at 4 strategies to reboot that wonderful inner battery. First one is a Christinism. This is one that I've come up with that I use a lot in my coaching with wonderful people around the world. I call it background apps. So the strategy is actually to turn off or turn down your background apps. Let me tell you a little bit about what they are. So think for yourself, do you get stuck in your thoughts or feelings while you're just trying to manage your work or your day? Right? Do you find yourself going, oh, I'm just so tired of my thinking. This feeling is overwhelming. I just need to get some stuff done, or to rest, or to free my. Well, you're definitely not alone. This is part of the human condition and escalated given the complexity of our world, where social media and access to information and apps and so many things are rewiring our brains so that we have a lot of thoughts, a lot of feelings, a lot of input. So if the concept here is turn off your background apps, let me tell you a little bit about this. Our world has changed. Each of us individually, our brains have changed due to COVID, And excessive rumination and anxiety are on the rise, and they were already high. And I think of it as of this blanket of uncertainty that has always been covering the world, but is more so now because of our access to awareness, because of hearing what's going on around the world at our fingertips. Psychologists, neuroscientists identify in an increase in this, and Dr. Alice Boyes, a therapist and author, calls what the increase is. It's an increase in thinking errors, which is just a nice, simple way of looking at it. So things like either or, polarized thinking. She goes, oh, that's a thinking error. Here's what you can do instead. Or paralysis by analysis, when you just get so deep into it that you can't even figure your way out or make a decision. She calls these thinking errors. All of these are so predominant in human brains. What this does then is it creates, I use this metaphor, when you pick your phone up and look and go, what? My battery's low. I just had it plugged in. What the heck's going on? And then scroll through and check it out, and it turns out there's some apps in the background that are running, draining your phone's battery, right? The background apps are running, and the battery's, maybe almost empty. That's what happens to us. It happens to our brains. It happens to our energy, is that we get drained because of that cognitive constancy that's going on, that constant thinking, the feelings, the reactions being turned up, and the nervous system response that comes with it. Because of this, folks, we sometimes get stuck, right? Our battery is drained. We're so focused on our thoughts, our feelings, and we might get stuck then with the overwhelm, with the reactions we have, stuck in an emotional reaction. And I love this poor dog. Look at the situation it's in. So stuck in an emotional reaction or stuck in our own heads. I invite you to write down for yourself. Try to identify in one word. What does, think of that dog in that pink chair. What does stuck feel like for you? Pause and identify that for yourself. You might just say it or write it down. What does being stuck feel like for you? And if we were here together and, on a webinar online, I would get you all to put this in chat, and you would see fascinating congruence with other people's words and difference, because it's not all of us. So I wonder, do you get stuck in your thoughts? I found this visual and just went, oh my gosh, I need to use this. It is so resonant for so many of us. Going along our day and get me out of my own head. Or if you had to pick one, do you get that gut feeling and stuck in the intuitive response, the gut feeling, sometimes even a sore stomach? I'm more of a stuck in my thought, stuck in my feelings as an initial response. Then my brain notices it and it goes to work on the on the stuck in my thoughts. So stuck in our thoughts, see which of these signs are familiar to you. What we call paralysis by analysis. Perfectionism, or really super high standards for ourselves and that we project on others. Either or, right? It's zero sum. It's I win, you lose. It's right or wrong. Really, really common since COVID, because globally, humans' brains became more polarized, and we saw it in the news, and we saw it in our neighbors, and we saw it and felt it in ourselves. Some more. Stuck in our thoughts, so stuck that I can't even think of possibilities. My risk hat is pulled so strongly over my ears, I can't even think of possibilities. It is what it is. That's a stuckness. A closed or fixed mindset is a stuckness in a way, because it's that feeling of I'm right, or it has to be this way, or I need it to be this way, right? Often comes from fear. Another manifestation of being stuck in our thoughts is building a case. So building a case for something that you think or against something that someone else thinks. And it's a manifestation of confirmation bias sometimes. When we've seen something, We believe it, we think it's right, and then our brain almost puts blinders on us so that we don't see counter evidence. And our brain, thank you, overly helpful brain, shows us so much confirming evidence that it's right. And we're stuck, we're unable to see what other evidence might present. Some more signs, more of the physical manifestation would be that emotional drain or emotional flooding. And sleeplessness. I know sometimes I dream about making PowerPoint slides or I dream about creating content and I wake up quite tired. And I'm sleepless because I'm working too much. So stuck in our thoughts is common. So again, if any of those resonated from that last slide, you can write those down for yourself and you can come back to these slides. Oh, the other side, stuck in our feelings, worrying, right? Anticipating. I experience anticipatory anxiety. And anxiety is to help us be ready. It does serve a purpose. My gosh, the world and humans are very ready these days because there's a lot of anxiety. Another stuck in our feelings is not being sufficient, not being enough, imposter syndrome. Very common. Another way of being stuck in our feelings is having a red hot, unhelpful feeling that we might be stuck in and we can't see past our frustration or get past our anger and can't show up the way we want to because we're stuck. Other signs are being highly reactive. If you notice others or notice yourself in that amygdala response a lot and reacting rather than pausing and thinking and going, telling, or tell me more, or I need to sleep on this, we can get stuck in a reactive mode. It can show up internally and externally as well when we're stuck in our feelings and we're just got the feels that we're less flexible than usual. And we might show up differently to people then, and they would be confused if you're usually quite flexible and just see that tip of the iceberg and go, oh, this isn't how I would expect Christine usually to be. I wonder what's going on, when really what it might be is not the flexibility. That's the symptom that's showing. It's more, I'm stuck in some feelings. Protective, justifying, defending. Anytime you feel or see that, pretty likely there's some feels going on, some strengths and some needs. And then again, if we look at it in a deeper and really less productive and often very uncomfortable manifestation, it would be shame of self or blame of others. Those two poles at either end, it's either I'm to shame or you're to blame. Lots of feelings going on that often get us to that. And then discouraged, kind of meh, demotivated, often comes from stuck in our feelings and not finding that way to paddle out of them. And I expect some of you were thinking this as I talked through those slides, sometimes both. As you look at this, excuse me, I just took a drink of water. As you look at this, sometimes you can feel like, oh, save me from my thoughts. I just can't stop. And this cognitive, action, 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 just spinning in our heads drains also our energy reserves or vice versa. So the good news is closing your background apps, turning down your background apps helps save emotional energy. It helps save your energy for doing tasks. It helps saves your buoyancy, your spring in your step. So here then is, we're going to talk now about some strategies for this. So first of all, notice, watch for when your energy reserves are low. If you see yourself slumping, if you hear you or other people sighing, that's a sign often of low energy. It's also sometimes a precursor for recognizing a more deep situation, more profound, like maybe heading into depression. So it's important to watch for these things. And then, so watch for them. I call this notice. So first notice them and then name it. So notice it, name it, navigate it. There's a wonderful strategy for your pocket. If you want to, in your pocket strategy, notice it, name it, navigate it. If you can notice oh, my energy is low, or I'm yawning a lot, or I'm drinking more coffee than usual, or I can't focus. Okay, notice it. Now name it, right? And in this case, listen for, oh, which of my background apps are playing? If you have a background app based on those feelings or thoughts, it might say something like this: I'm never going to get this done well enough. They're going to think I'm not the real goods. When I do that presentation, I'm going to feel like an imposter. I'm never going to get ahead in my career. I can't learn to speak up. I'm too shy. Right? Background apps are these persistent narratives that play and drain our energy. So notice them, name them, and then navigate them. How to paddle? Make a choice to turn them off. Here is how to turn them off. First of all, write them down. Right? Just get them out. Thanks, brain, for hanging on to that. I'm going to write it down. So just like I did with attention residue at the beginning, you can write down, you can keep a little book, a piece of paper, maybe a spot on your phone, that when you notice your energy and then go, oh, it's these background apps, you pause and write them down. And then the trick is not to just leave them there. Maybe to set 4 o'clock or 7 p.m. or something as the time that you will read through them. And when you read through them, because they're warning you. They're saying, hey, caution, make sure this, don't think you're too big for your britches. You might be an imposter. Our brain, very helpful brain, thank you brain, right, for all these background apps, this background noise that's draining us. But if you write them down and choose to then sit and look at them maybe on your lunch break or before bed so you sleep better, then you can talk through them. And you can go, oh, right, okay, yeah, that is something that matters to me. You may even resolve them then by actually sitting and giving them some attention, right? Our brain is like us as a toddler. We'll keep at it until we get our parents' attention or get what we want or get that nice juicy strawberry. Write them down, resolve them, talk through them. And then the last one on here is to loosen your grip. That's a strategy that can help. Often we're holding tight to something and our brain, it's like, this matters. For example, it matters to me that I don't feel embarrassed after that presentation. It matters to me that people aren't nodding off or looking at their phone when I'm up at the podium. It matters, so we hold tight to it. Picture your grip right now in your hand. You hold tight to it and it creates background apps because something matters. So by writing them down, choosing a time to look at them during the day, talking through them, maybe resolving them, but listening to them, it can help you to loosen your grip sometimes. And show self-compassion, for example, with that presentation example. I've presented before, and generally people quite enjoy my presentations. This is normal. I'm still going to think about it. I'm going to worry less. And thank you, brain, for the warning. If you want more on this to dig deeper on it, I mentioned Dr. Alice Boyes. Here are two of my favorite works that she has produced, the Anxiety Toolkit and the Healthy Mind Toolkit. They are very practical, right? The Anxiety Toolkit, strategies for fine-tuning your mind and moving past your stuck points. Very relevant. And then there also is a decades-old book called The Power of Full Engagement. And what it's about is how managing your energy, not your time, is really what's underneath high performance and what they call personal renewal. So those might be of interest if you want. All right. We're through the first one. Take a moment for yourself. I'm having a stretch. A little sip of water. All right. So our next one then, in our bear, this will help you to bear things better, B-E-A-R. The next strategy is around, or it's strategies around emotions, which we've already dipped into. The strategy we're going to talk about is how to change hot feelings to cool ones. So if you think of a situation that's a tough one, sometimes our emotional reactions are heightened. We feel out of control. We don't even recognize ourselves. And what it can feel like is like these red hot emotions lead us around by the nose. It feels like we're out of control. Very common. So emotional intelligence is not just about the fluffy, happy, positivity-oriented emotions. It's about the full range of human emotions. And my lovely husband and I like to go down to the beaches and through the forests a lot here on Vancouver Island where we live. And for a while we were looking for faces and noticing faces in nature. And so I've captured some of them here for your amusement and because they're resonant, right? EI is not just about fluffy and positive. So let's use that awareness to take a look at how naming your emotions, which is called emotional awareness, um, can build emotional literacy and then help you to navigate. So introducing what in coaching we call name it to tame it. I'm going to introduce this and say name them to tame them using emotions. Here is an example of one of many charts you can find if you search for them on the families of emotions. This has been identified through theory in psychology and human development, often used with children initially, and you might recognize some of this from your childhood or any teaching or therapy you've had or from your parents. It's used a lot now in the corporate world. I pull this chart out so often with my vice presidents, my CEOs, my exec directors, their teams, whoever it might be. So if you look at this, it shows that in this chart, there are 5 families of emotion identified: happy, sad, angry, afraid, ashamed. And then like a little thesaurus of iterations underneath. So I might feel ashamed, but when I really look at it, I feel disgraced. I might feel afraid, and it's not that red hot. It's more in the middle there. I feel a bit insecure, uneasy. I may feel angry, and it's down at the bottom. I'm angry, but I'm just perturbed. I may feel sad, and it feels dejected and hopeless. Happy might feel overjoyed, fired up, passionate. So many different emotion names. So you can see why it's called emotional literacy. The ability to name them is not something we're all born with. So this concept then is about changing red hot feelings that aren't serving us for cooler ones. So hot emotions sometimes are the result of our amygdala. So fight, flight, freeze, fawn response is what our amygdala, that small almond-shaped part behind our ears in our brain, when our amygdala notices that, I need to take away the executive function from the front of the brain, I need to take the paddle, right? I'm in charge here, this is a crisis. It takes over and often our emotions are spiked, they're hot ones. What these hot emotions can do is serve us, right? If a bear is chasing you, it's good that you feel afraid because it mobilizes your body. It's good that you feel petrified because you'll run. So it's helpful. What also happens, you'll see below there, is hot emotions, when there for a long time, can also have a spiraling effect on our mood, our thoughts, and get us stuck and pull us down in our thinking and our feelings. Whereas cooler versions can lead to responses that, if you're responding in an adverse situation or a situation that's just uncomfortable, our responses can be less harmful to ourselves, our relationships, to the situation, and they can be healthier. Cool emotions can still promote clearer thinking, or also promote clearer thinking and help us take perspective. So here's a model that was developed using this basic framework, initially for children with autism. This shows in such a simple rubric how the concept of emotional intensity and different strategies can come together. So let's say you have your own children, or you're working with children, or just picture someone using this chart with a child with autism, for example, and say, how are you feeling right now? They can say, oh, I'm feeling nervous. I have to do this thing. Oh, is it a 1, 2, or 3? And see how the green we equate with go, yellow is to slow down, red is more kind of emergency or stop. So just those colors alone evoke something. And then if you look at the bottom, if the child says, I'm feeling a nervous, and it's a 2. So if it was a 1, it would mean I feel nervous and I'm calm and in control. 2 would be I'm having some strong feelings, but I still can stay in control. If the child had said nervous and just pointed to the 3, it's I can't control my emotions right now. I need to calm down. This chart I showed you earlier is similar. So now you can see the complete chart, and the emotions are ranked in intensity from high to medium to low. So this, as I mentioned, I said I use this chart often. Sometimes I have CEOs who print this off and put it in their, nice leather binder and carry it from meeting to meeting. And no one necessarily knows they're doing this. Sometimes they share it. But what they'll do is go, oh, I'm feeling something. And they open it up and go, happy, sad, angry, afraid, or ashamed. Oh, I'm feeling afraid. Okay. What word really denotes how I'm feeling? They might go, oh, okay, it's not high. It's, oh, I'm feeling threatened by how these other people at the table are speaking. If I'm feeling threatened, I'm going to justify and protect. I don't want to do that, right? That level is not going to serve me. So then they look down to the low ones and go, what can I ask my brain to turn it down to? I could turn down threatened to unsure. And the simple act of doing that and saying, I'm going to go from this emotion to this one within the same family does 2 things. One, it stops us trying to cram that emotion down, in which case it'll probably become higher, right? So instead of trying to cram it down or just go, I'm going to feel happy instead, it allows you to honor that emotion and turn it down. And the mere act of doing that sends a signal to our brain. And it's almost like the little minions in our brain go, she's listening. She heard threaten. She's turning it down. And people, when I work with people and when I do this for myself, it can have really quick feelings of. So I invite you to consider what red hot emotions you might have felt lately and which cool emotion in the same family could replace it. And I say write it down. I'm going to encourage you, if you saw one in there, write it down now. If not, again, come back. Print that one slide off or take a picture of it or look for it on the internet. All right. So the second strategy, you'll see it at the bottom here, again, with changing those hot feelings to cool ones. And I'm going to give a little disclaimer. Sometimes we don't want and we shouldn't turn down the hot feelings. Sometimes they're serving us. This is when it feels like this isn't going to serve me right now, and I'm not feeling like I can figure things out or get to where I want to or manage myself. Sometimes cool ones actually could be turned up because we're feeling meh, maybe, right? Our emotional energy is low. So it's not just to turn them down, but this strategy is about how to change hot to cool when they're not serving us. So the second strategy, monitor first. So this is that notice it, name it, navigate it again. So notice it, monitor your own reactions. Are you pacing or fidgeting? Do you feel like your face is getting warm? Are you clenching your jaw? Are you withdrawing and getting quiet, right? So notice your reactions and then name it. Identify what you're feeling and use the chart. Print it off like that CEO I talked about. Name what you're feeling and then choose a cooler emotion in the same family that would serve you better. Or sometimes even a similar medium emotion, for example, that would serve you better. Okay. So again, have a little stretch. We try to go too much, and the power of the pause is so important. So take a moment, stop the recording right now if you feel you want to go refresh your coffee or get a breath of fresh air. All right. So now the third strategy area to reboot that inner battery is attention. My strategy for you is pay attention to attention. So no matter when you're watching this, whatever year it is, however long it's been since I posted this and started the paddle platform, our world has changed due to COVID-19. And even before then, some of us hadn't yet necessarily found our new healthy habits. We hadn't figured out how to use attention in ways that serve us. So unhealthy habits that I hear about from the people I coach or teach often are about their mindsets. So like I mentioned before, perfectionism, scarcity thinking, either or thinking, so many mindsets they feel are unhealthy and not serving them. And then the related behaviors like working without breaks, uh, having a culture of heroics, for example, is a behavior that some teams get into where you get into work and compare how late you stayed after work or how much harder you had to work to get the thing done. Um, Not addressing conflicts or naming the elephant in the room, another one for sure. So lots of things like, hello, welcome to being human, because lots of things that we do are automated, they're natural, they're because of our reactions, because of things matter so much. So we all have unhealthy habits. The wonderful thing is we can shift habits. And this whole mindfulness thing, I hear people call it sometimes. It's much more than a trend. When you look at this picture, when was the last time that you walked with your hands behind your back and strolled, just paying attention, giving attention to what was around you, noticing the little things? Mindfulness is not just a trend, it's a way of being. It's how we used to be before social media, before a lot of the digitization that's been going on, before the busyness and the culture of busyness. We are losing our ability to be mindful. We are losing our ability to be present, to notice, and to put our attention where we choose to put it. And in the words of Cal Newport, we are losing our ability to do deep work. So if you're curious about this, look up Cal Newport. I follow his newsletter. I read lots of articles and have listened to some things on audio by him. And I have his book, Deep Work. Here's the irony. I got his book, Deep Work, which talks about how our brains, there's proof from neuroscientists that our brains are losing and have lost significantly our ability to read a full book, pay attention to a full movie, watch a full documentary without reaching for our phone, getting a snack, chatting about it, squirming around. Our brains live on dopamine hits and are looking for the next fix. So here's the irony. I got his book. I was like, I need to learn more about this for myself and to help the people that I serve. I had a hard time finishing it. Reading his book, which is very deep and very helpful and full of proof and ideas and projections of what the impacts already are and what they will be, I had to keep putting it down. And I just realized this is right. One of the other things that is being measured by neuropsychologists is that attention residue concept. If you haven't heard of this before, it literally is that whatever you were doing before starting listening to this webinar was very likely, if it was unfinished, if you're going to go back to it, if you hadn't fully resolved it, or if it was really interesting, it floated around like grains of sand in your thoughts, in your head, for 10 minutes on average before you could fully focus on this webinar. 10 minutes on average. The next thing you shift from thing one to the next thing on your list. This is very real. Do you notice yourself going, oh, I just read that line over and over? Or, wait, I'm still thinking about that thing. Or, oh, I got to pay attention. It's because attention residue can be measured, and we all get it. The thing about attention residue is similar to what I said about naming your intention. And when I talked about intention at the beginning, is to write it down and come back to it. That's a reactive way. When you notice attention residue, or you notice your attention is split, is to do that. Proactively, I encourage a daily morning habit, and I do this myself. It's a strategy that I call intention attention. So in the shower, most days, And if I forget, I usually remember later. I have it in my phone right now as a reminder. It says intention, attention. So in the shower, I'll go, oh, okay, with how I slept and how I feel and the day that's ahead of me, how do I want to paddle? What's my intention for today? And today, my intention was peacefully. Again, what evidence from brain researchers show is that by stating your intention, you're giving directions to your brain and it will pay attention to it. You are taking back control of your attention rather than letting distraction and fatigue and things get in the way. So intention, attention. And there's other ways you can incorporate habits like this in. Like I say here in the blue circle, you could use post-it notes to remind yourself. If you really have a strong intention and you want to stick to it, like if mine was peacefully, maybe I write peacefully at the top of my phone. Maybe I create a meeting with myself to check in at noon. How's it going with being peaceful? Maybe at night I then write in my journal, my intention was being peaceful. How did I do? These things help to literally shift from our automated reactions and ways of being to more intentional. So if the key strategy underlying how to pay attention to attention is to be mindful and intentional about paying attention. Makes sense, doesn't it? So that one strategy I listed, daily intention, is helpful. Journaling is helpful. How about this one, folks? Limiting your email and social media consumption. And that crossing the threshold intentionally between activities helps to actually create those triggers and messages to your brain that we're doing something new now. And this is so important if you are on internet often, if you work remotely, if you're online, if your work involves a computer and you shift from a Teams meeting to a Zoom meeting without even like shaking your head and looking around. Create thresholds for yourself. And so I encourage you to think about more. What else are you doing to create more mindfulness? Be present. Eliminate that fog. Help with your focus. You likely are already doing things. And I'm reminding you. Okay, again, lovely little drop of water here reminding us to pay attention because you never know what you'll see. That was a hike down at Seal Bay in the Comox Valley. And I saw that and had the gift of capturing it because you can see through it that it's reflecting back some more moss. Okay, our final strategy category is rest. Okay, so just go lie down. Go up. Well, it's not that simple. With rest, one size does not fit all of us. And like we've talked about, many of the people I serve, many of my clients, many, family members, friends, I'll bet you know this. Many people are feeling exhausted even when they wake up. So sleeping longer isn't always helping. And this Zoom fatigue and internet fatigue is, if you don't already know about this, in your Zoom calls, in your Teams calls, whatever platform you use, hiding your self view has now been proven to really strongly help with this fatigue that we're feeling. And I use this analogy. Imagine back in the day before we used internet, online, as much, and we met in person. Imagine going to a conference room where everyone sat around the table and there was a mirror in front of each of us. Wouldn't that have been weird? And yet we do that. You can notice when someone else is like fixing their hair or looking underneath their chin or whatever it is. It is viscerally exhausting to watch ourselves. And in Zoom online, we are also reversed sometimes to what we really look like. It is draining that battery in huge ways. So hide self-view whenever you can. I coach my clients. I literally will say when they're talking about fatigue and exhaustion and energy, I'll say, when was the last time you sat under a tree? And usually they laugh and I say, no, I mean it. Oh, when was the last time you sat on a beach? When was the last time you sat in a chair and looked at the grass? When was the last time you looked closely at a bee, on a flower? not did something, not checked a box. And so I coach my clients to schedule time to sit under a tree. Schedule time because we have forgotten that that's normal. And you can reground your nervous system. I really encourage you to check out. I believe this was originally by Sandra Dalton Smith, who's an MD, that this article came out, and there's a TED talk that she does, the 7 types of rest that every person needs. Now it's been duplicated and it floats around the in various forms. Here are basically what it boils down to. There are 7 types of rest, not just sleep. Physical, creative, spiritual, emotional, sensory, social, and mental. Look at those for yourself right now and think, which one do I just need some of that? So, with this situation of so many people feeling Zoom fatigue and sleeping longer isn't helping, here's a strategy for you. Identify which types of rest you're missing, right? So, watch that TED Talk, read some of those articles, think about it, and notice, right? Which types of rest am I missing? Schedule them into your life, and it's going to recharge your battery. And I do mean schedule them. Work with what we're already doing. We're scheduling. So here again is the list of the 7 types. And I encourage you, as that's a little takeaway, a little homework for you, to figure out which of these do you need more of. And you may end up needing less sleep. Now, so important here, folks. For those of us suffering regularly or intermittently from mental health conditions, these can help, and they're not to replace the treatment, the trust, the care, the expertise that you can get from a professional. I'm a certified coach, and I know when to refer people to others. So please, practice self-compassion for yourself, empathy for others. We can't see underneath their iceberg. We don't know what they're going through. Read, if you're not feeling like or don't have the resources to go to a therapist, there are so many things online. There are free things online that you also can find to help yourself. We are through this together. And I speak this way and am blessed to have been introduced by one of my clients in Germany to the work of Dr. Kristen Neff. Her lab, I believe she's at Berkeley, I forget, but she has a lab of researchers in psychology who have brought forward this concept of self-compassion to really replace self-esteem. Because what she calls the self-esteem movement has made us feel like everyone can be the F-bomb, their F-bomb self, or you can be the CEO, or you can be the princess. And it's creating a lot of social comparison, a lot of fatigue, a lot of imposter syndrome, and anxiety. So there's lots going on, and there's wonderful resources out there. I hope you chose some strategies for yourself. Here's a reminder, right? Background apps, turn them off or turn them down to manage your energy. Emotions, name them to tame them, and turn them down when it serves you. Attention, make it your intention to pay attention. And then rest. Remember that sleeping isn't always what we need, and figure out what other types you could. This is my lovely, may she rest in peace, dog Zoe. And look at those eyes. She wants you to take good care of you. I wish you happy paddling, and I hope you get a good reboot.